artificial intelligence, AI.
Some AI models.
Thinking about AI for a long time.
Purely generated by AI.
Does an AI model work the same way as the human mind? The human brain, with its 86 billion neurons forming an intricate web of connections, might seem eerily similar to artificial neural networks that powers AI models. But how deep does this resemblance go? Connectionism argues that the human mind is just that. A colossal neural network, nothing more and nothing less. But if that is true, does that mean that an AI could one day truly think? Or are we missing something vital about the mind? Before we can dive into these questions, we need to understand the basics of what a neural network is. Here follows a rough explanation. This example is originally derived from this paper written by Gorman and Sejnowski. Let's say we have a submarine that wants to distinguish between mines and rocks. To do so, it uses what is called active sonar, meaning that it sends out a pulse of sound, and if the sound echoes back, we know that something is up ahead. But just knowing that something is up ahead is not sufficient for our purpose. The task is to know whether it is a rock or a mine we're facing. Now let's say the sonar has recognized that something is up ahead. The sonar signal can be divided into three parts: low, medium, and high frequencies. All of these frequencies within each echo vary in volume. Now, let's say that we've received three numbers from the sonar: 9, 1, 3. 9 represent the amount of volume in the low frequency, 1 the medium, and 3 in the high. Now, just by looking at these numbers, we cannot know whether we're facing a rock or a mine. So we need to feed these numbers into a connectionist system. Here is a very basic connectionist system. It consists of three different layers of nodes. The first is the input layer, second, what is called the hidden layer, and thirdly, the output layer. The input layers represent our three parameters: the volume of the low, medium, and high frequencies. The output layer represents the result. The left node represents a mine, while the right node represents a rock. We then insert these numbers we received from the sonar into the input layer, which activates the nodes in various degrees. Each node in the input layer is connected to the hidden layer, and depending on how much the connections are weighted, so to say, the hidden nodes will become active in various degrees. Let's say we put a weight of 0.5 between this input node and this hidden node. Here, the activation of the input node is 9, and what determines the activation of the hidden node is the activation of the input node multiplied by the weight of the connection, which is, like I said, 0.5. So at first, this node gains an activation of 4.5. But this hidden node is also connected to the other input nodes as well. So let's say that we have a weight of 1 here and a weight of 0.2 here. After the math is done, we have a total activation of this node of 6.1. How this hidden node in turn responds to its total activation is determined by a mathematical formula, which we don't have to get into here. But quite often, if a node does not surpass a certain threshold, it won't get activated at all. This procedure occurs between each input and hidden node. Then the same process of different connection weights is done between the hidden nodes and the output nodes. In the end, depending upon which output node that possesses the highest amount of activation determines whether the system believes the sonar numbers represent a mine or a rock. So now we have the system ready for training. In order to proceed, we need a huge dataset in which we know each answer. Here we know it is a rock, and let's say the sonar gives us the number of 3, 5, and 2. We then feed these numbers into the system and see how it responds. Here, the system thinks it is a mine, which is false. So the system made a mistake. A common way of fixing the system's mistake is done through what is called backpropagation. Roughly put, we need to trace the error from the output layer back to the input and adjust the weights until we have the correct result. This can be done manually, which is very tedious, I believe, but within modern systems we can use mathematics to correct it. This procedure is done through the whole dataset, and in time, after a numbers of fine adjustments of the weights, the system will be able to distinguish with great accuracy whether the sonar signal represents a mine or a rock. Knowing all this, we can begin to answer the question whether the human mind just is a connectionist system. If we only look at the structure, they are indeed very similar. A human brain possesses about 86 billion neurons. Each neuron can be seen as the node in the connectionist system. If they fire, they have received a big enough total activation from other neurons. So structurally, the brain just is a connectionist system. And there is great empirical data which supports this view as well. Researchers have found that it takes about 100 neurons to perform a perceptual recognition task within the human brain. This is sometimes referred to as the 100-step rule. And the good news for connectionism is that a highly functioning connectionist system can respect this rule. This result gives a big advancement over the computational theory of the mind. For a perceptual recognition task using only computation, it would maybe have to perform about 1,000,000 steps in order to do the same task. But now, let's move on into some problems. Much of this episode is based upon this book by Ian Ravenscroft. And the funny thing is, he gives us 3 problems for connectionism. But this book came out in 2005, and as you know, there has been a lot of progress within this field since then. There is one problem that Ravenscroft describes in this book that I just thought was super funny. Let me just read you what he wrote.
This is a promising result. However, it remains to be seen whether Ellman's approach can be scaled up to handle full-blown grammars and large vocabularies. Well, Ellman's approach isn't what AI today is based upon, I believe, but we definitely know that the problem of handling language and full-blown grammar is not an issue for AI anymore, right? It's truly incredible how well an AI like ChatGPT is handling language. But there are 2 other problems that I would like to highlight.
Firstly, the human mind learns way quicker than a connectionist system. For instance, my nephew, who's 3 years old, learns a new word every other waking hour, while a connectionist system needs a vast set of data in order to learn something basic with not much accuracy. So there seems to be something missing in this picture. Sure, when the system is up and running, it is indeed very quick, but the training process takes a lot of time. But lastly, the biggest problem of them all is that of phenomenal consciousness, which is indeed a problem for all the theories we've been discussing these past months. Let's just say that the human mind is a connectionist system. Alright, but how does phenomenal consciousness emerge from all these neurons firing? What produces the phenomenal quality of pain? Why does pain feel a certain way? Now, that is the hard problem of consciousness.
But that is a topic for another episode, so if that sounds interesting, make sure to subscribe. Also, I made a distinction between connectionism and computationalism. It's not the same thing. So, if you would like to know more about computationalism, then I suggest you to check out this video right here.